Time for the only radio show of its kind. Auctioneers of antiques, collectors of cool, veterans of vintage. It's the Donnelly Auctions Hour on AM 560, The Answer. For the next hour, enjoy great information about buying and selling antiques and collectibles, and some interesting stories. Now, the Donnelly Auctions Hour.
Welcome back to the Donnelly Auctions Hour. We are back, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Randy, Susan, and Mike Donnelly, we're here every Saturday at 1 o'clock. And I'm here on the sidelines today, but Mike and Randy are in the studio. Hi, guys.
Hey, Susan. You know, yes, I'd like to welcome everybody back to our show, and thank you. I just want to say thank you for all the support that we've had while we've been gone, and the calls and the emails and everything, both to us and to the show here back to 560.
We got a call the other day from a guy who was so upset that we had taken a break from the show, and he says, you have to get back on the radio. I get together with the group of guys every Saturday just to listen to your show. We find it very entertaining. So for those of you guys listening to the show, we're back. Thanks for sticking with us.
Well, without a doubt, and we're changing the format just a little bit. Susan's not in the studio today. Mike and I are. We're going to be taking the lead on the show, and Susan's going to go. Actually, you'll be more of a guest from time to time, correct, Susan?
Yes, I could be. But real quick, I just want to let everyone know, for those who are new joining the radio show, the Donnelly Auctions Hour, we're the owners of Donnelly Auctions in Union, Illinois. We're just 60 miles west of Chicago, and we're here today to talk about items that you might have at home or in your garage that you might want to sell at one of our upcoming auctions. So you guys are going to talk about some of the things that we've held, our big annual Spring Classic, and what's to come, to see if there's anything there that we could consign for you for an upcoming auction.
Well, without a doubt. So, Mike, let's first kind of recap for everybody out there, because we were giving everybody a week-by-week, a blow-by-blow description of how the auctions were coming, and you know, but now we kind of left everybody hanging with no results from our past auctions, because we've had 3 or 4 auctions since we've been on the air. Let's talk a little bit about April.
Well, yeah, April was a real barn burner. It was a 4-day auction, and thanks to everybody out there for consigning their items. I mean, it was just a tremendous success. We had people from all over the world came in, actually, for it.
But I'd like to point out that, Mike, a barn burner was a good thing, yes?
Oh, yes, yeah, that's an old
term. So, yes, it was a very successful auction. And as Mike says, wow, people literally flew in from all over the world and bid at the auction. And there were so many fun surprises of how well things sold at the auction. So that's always good news.
You want to talk about the highest priced item that sold? You guys know what it is, and that was quite an exciting moment at the auction on Friday night.
Well, you're going to have to remind me.
How about the peanut roasters, guys? Those peanut roasters.
You know, yes, I do have to say we had, ladies and gentlemen, some old, kind of rusty, wouldn't you say? Yeah. Old, rusted out peanut roasters came from a local Chicago business, and we had them pre-auction estimated at $500 to $1,500, I think, because that's all they're worth. I mean, in normal times, we've sold them before, and that's the value, $500 to $1,500. And what did they end up going for? I mean,
I think one went for $11,000 and one for $18,000.
Incredible, yeah.
And these were just big commercial hunks of steel. I mean,
and here's the beauty. I mean, these we had all kinds. Well, like all 4 of us were standing there with our phones, because these were out-of-state bidders really competitively going after these things. So it only takes 2 people, folks, that want something, and that's why you want to sell at auction, because these are the kind of things that can happen. Instead of getting $500 to $1,500, we end up getting people $18,000 for their items, and that's again the beauty of an auction.
Well, the other big surprise there was the saloon doors. They're a beautiful set of Brunswick saloon doors. The gentleman was hoping to get $1,800 from them. They brought $11,000.
$11,000. That's just incredible money. And yes, I remember right before the auction. I think we had them. We had them pre-auction estimated pretty good.
Yeah.
But I think we had like a $3,000 opening bid, or maybe even $5,000 opening bid for them. And he said, "Please lower the bid." He said, "I'll be happy to get $1,800 for them." And Mike said, "Calm down. Calm down. The auction hasn't started yet. Let's see what happens."
Yeah, that was pretty good.
That's again.
That's right. We had thousands of bidders online for this auction because it was not just one day; it was 4 days and thousands of bidders, and we had standing room only in the auction gallery. It was quite an event.
It really was an event. That's well said, Susan.
Well, some of the other highlights from the auction, real quick, those peanut roasters, they went for $18,500. Did you mention that?
Yes, we just did.
$18,500. And then the cars that we had, the Model A, the 1931 Model A sold for $18,000.
Yeah, and that's a good price for a Model A nowadays. It's a very good price because, unfortunately, the older the car right now, unless it happens to be a very rare, desirable specimen, unfortunately, the older the car, the harder they are to sell. Model Ts and Model As just aren't bringing the money that a 1960s or 70s muscle car does. I mean, you can't even equate it. So T's and A's, T's and A's are kind of hard to sell right now.
Yeah, you can drive them in parades and such, but it's nothing you really take out on the highway like you can a more modern car, 60s car or anything. So that limits your ability to
you
have
think
fun.
about it, 35 miles an hour top speed. I mean, even local speed limits are very often more than that.
And
just
mechanical
going through a
brakes
town.
and things like that. They're just not something you want to.
No airbags, right. All the things you forget about. Not even seatbelts in a Model A.
No.
Wow. So
the other highlight in the vehicle department was my personal favorite, was the 69 Firebird. It was orange with a white convertible top. She had a goal that she wanted. We exceeded that goal. That one sold for $14,000, and it was really just kept in the garage for many, many years.
Well, it was a two-owner vehicle, which was interesting, but truly it, unfortunately, it was a barn find. It had a lot of work that needed to be done to it. So, yes, that was good money. So if somebody out there hears, a 69 Firebird, $1,000 or what have you, that doesn't sound like a lot of money because a restored version of that could be $50,000. But the problem, again, today is the cost of restoration very often exceeds the cost of the restored item. So you could put $50,000 in a car like that, and so when you've got the purchase price, what can you pay for one? I thought it did very well. So
well, that's great. And then we had a 55 camper. Not only did we have cars and motorcycles and all this coin-op and pinball machines, we also had that 55 camper.
that was pretty cool, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
That was
That's an item I would have liked to have.
Yeah, that even had like the plates and dishes and everything. It was all set out.
All ready to
50s,
go, yeah. And it was just classic 50s. But, there were big peanut wagons and popcorn machines and just all kinds of stuff.
And
But
your stock ticker sold again, too. That one sold for $7,500 for a stock ticker.
And that's on the low end for a stock ticker. So I want everybody out there to know if you've got a stock ticker, they will, depending on condition. Now, this one, it had its issues. So $7,500 was certainly all the money on this one. But stock tickers can go up exceedingly. I mean, stock tickers can go up $10,000, $15,000 and up. So if you have a stock ticker at home, a ticker tape machine, most of them were given away as gifts and prizes when people retired from the stock exchange. So there's a lot of them out there in the Chicago area. And to that point, $7,500 is probably the minimum that we would get you out of a stock ticker. So if you have one at home, Susan, where do they want to call?
All right, here's what you got to do. If you have anything in these categories we're talking about today, send us an email at consign at Donley Auctions with an S, DONLEY, auctions.com. Send us some brief information, what it is, where you're located, how many items do you have, and send us some photos, and we will definitely give you the next steps.
Right, and all these things we're talking about, we're always looking for more. So we're looking for more vintage cars. Oh, and let's talk about that in our next segment, all the cars we just pulled out of Wakanda. We've got looking for cars. We're looking for signs. We're looking for gas pumps and just anything vehicle related, motorcycles.
Anything with wheels, pretty much. And that's because we're going to be holding the August Summer Classic coming up. So we're going to be talking about more of those items as well. And speaking of cars, can we touch on those license plates?
We'll get back to that.
Fantastic license plate auction. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Donley Auctions Hour right here every Saturday now. We're back, folks, on AM 560, The Answer.
They've been called auctioneers of antiques, collectors of cool, even veterans of vintage. And they can introduce themselves. Thanks for listening. This is the Donley Auctions Hour on AM 560, The Answer.
Welcome back to the Donley Auctions Hour, folks. We are back. I'm Susan. I'm co-owner of Donley Auctions in the studio today with Mike and Randy Donley. Don't forget, we're located just 60 miles west of Chicago in Union, Illinois, and we're talking about all things with wheels. We just held the April Spring Classic, had some great buys and items that sold at our April Spring Classic, and we just held a license plate collection auction. Mike, can you give us a little update on that?
Yeah, that was another really good auction. Many different great plates in that. We had the St. Louis #1 from 1911, I believe that was. We had two incredible #1 plates from Illinois. They were the 1928 and the 1931, and those things never, ever turn up. And they just walked in the door. Some guy heard we were having a plate auction and walked in with them.
Let me give you the prices on those real quick. The 1911 sold for $18,000.
Yeah, it's a pretty good price. Yeah.
Pretty amazing. The 1928 Illinois plate sold for $6,000, and the 1931 plate $6,500.
Yep, that's decent money for those. I mean, and go find another. So and just for everybody out there, the age of a plate has nothing to do with it. I mean, to some extent, but mostly you have to look at condition and you have to look at the digits. The amount of digits dictate price a lot of times on a plate.
Well, and Mike, what would you say that's up to? Maybe up to 4 numbers? So obviously single-digit plates are the most desirable.
They'll bring the premium, yes.
And then still double digits. There was a small run of double digits that went very well. Mm-hmm. And that's something else, Mike. Wouldn't you say a run? Explain what a run is and why so many people want what's referred to as a run on plates.
A run is the same plate number, whether it be letters and digits, of multiple years. So the more years you have of a same number plate, that becomes what's called a run. Once you get past 3 or 4 years, now I think we sold one that was. It was like 60 years or something like that, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And here's something for those of you out there listening that are only in your 20s or 30s. You don't even know why there would be such a thing as a run. But years ago, plates were issued every year. And my son was looking at a run of license plates, and he said, how did they get one every year? Because, obviously today they only issue stickers. And so he didn't really understand the concept that they used to issue plates every single year. So if you kept the same number and the same number year after year after year, you would develop a run of plates. Most people hung them up in their garage, and that's where we find most license plate collections today is in the Chicago and suburbs.
Yeah, I remember growing up in Berwyn, you'd go down the alley, and the Bohemians have their garage door opens, and every one of them would have a run of plates hanging in there.
Absolutely, especially up in the rafters. Yeah. They'd hang them all in the rafters. Yep. You don't see that much anymore. But if you've got license plates, we're always running another license plate auction.
Yeah, send in a photo. Just snap a quick photo and send it in. We'll give you our opinion on what it might bring.
Now,
Again, send those to consign@DonnellyAuctions.com.
and, I mentioned in the last segment, too, that we're always looking for cars. Mike and I just pulled 13 vintage vehicles out of literally a barn setting, and it was really some very, very nice vehicles there. There's it really runs the gamut from a Model A to Volkswagen buses.
Oh, yeah. 40s cars.
Not one, but two.
A 51 Ford military pickup truck.
Yeah. 68
Mustang out there.
Mustang.
Yeah.
Big black Mustang convertible, or 67. That's the 67.
Yeah.
And I think there's a 65 there, too, or 66, too.
Yeah.
And what about the Volkswagen Bug? What year is that one? 70?
I don't know.
I think that's earlier. I think
Yellow.
it's from the 60s.
It's the cutest thing.
It's convertible, too, isn't it?
It
Yes,
is.
convertible.
Yeah.
So all of those cars that are out in front of the Wild West town are up for auction in August because we're going to be holding a summer classic.
That is
we wanna
correct,
add to
Susan.
that.
Yeah. So if you've got vintage vehicles, restored or unrestored, we're looking for them. And I keep pushing gas pumps. We want big signs, big old porcelain signs that used to hang in front of gas stations or any business, really. We're looking for all kinds of business signs. We once had a big, huge double-sided sign that came from in front of an old drive-in movie theater.
Oh, yeah. What was the name of the theater, Susan? That's where you grew up, wasn't it?
Hillcrest.
The Hillcrest Theater, yeah.
Hillcrest Theater, yes.
And then we had another one.
From the McHenry Outdoor. Yeah, we had the McHenry Outdoor.
Yeah. So
And let's not forget Joe's, Chicago Joe's, that neon sign that was out in the building. Oh, my God.
absolutely. I mean, you talk about big signs. Took a crane to get that one down, but we'll do all the work too. We'll take the signs down. We'll come in and get it moved, and remind everybody how to get a hold of us, Susan.
So tell me a little bit about the neon signs, too, because we love the neon signs, right? We had some amazing ones in this auction. Those sell really well, and I believe they're going overseas somewhere. Are we still looking for neon signs?
Always neons, yes. But once again, please remind everybody how to get a hold of us.
Yes, at consign@DonnellyAuctions.com. It's DONLEY auctions.com. Or you can give us a call at 815-923-7000.
You bet. We're always looking for more. So one thing, too, we've got a big military auction coming up. You know, I just touched on a military vehicle, which will actually not be held for the military auction, but will be part of our vehicle sale. But we're looking for not only military vehicles, but boy, oh boy, do we have a good one coming up in May, right? May 18th and 19th?
May 18th is our guns and ammunition auction, and we'll touch base on some more details in the next segment on that. And as well, I know you guys have some great stories about these wonderful military groupings. That's coming up on Sunday, May 19th.
Wow, yeah. So, well, let's start. Why don't we get started on the military? You know, ladies and gentlemen, we're always talking about provenance. You know, an item is just an item if you have no kind of story to go along with it, how it was acquired, where it came from. I mean, all the interesting stories. And military relics really need provenance to make them more valuable. Otherwise, a helmet's just a helmet or a dagger's just a dagger. But if you know the veteran that brought it home, any story that he had as to how he acquired it and so on and so forth. Now, we've got this military auction coming up in May, and there are three major, what we refer to as a grouping when it's more than one item that came from a veteran. And one of my favorites is there's a gentleman whose, I believe, father was a World War II German pilot. And he has, his father's uniform, his father's hat, his father's medals, photographs, discharge papers, all these from a German aviation officer. I mean, a Luftwaffe grouping that's incredible, coming right from the family. I mean, that just doesn't happen.
No, and after the war, he immigrated to Wisconsin, and spent the rest of his life in Wisconsin. So it was here in the States, but
His name is Gerard Rausch. He died in 1973. He had 3 kills and was shot down 13 times.
Wow.
Incredible. Yeah.
287 consecutive combat missions.
And
with over 8,000 flight hours.
And flew every German aircraft, every style of German aircraft, including the jet. What was that, the ME-109s or something? Was that the jet?
The ME-109, the FW-190, the Ju-88. Oh, the list goes on and on. But all of that information is in the description, which is online already at DonnellyAuctions.com.
Good. Well, and we've got...
just have to look for lot number 2045 if you want the whole story there.
Excellent. Now, we've got a couple more groupings that I do want to talk about. As a matter of fact, we're running out of time for this segment, so I just want to remind everybody, right now I'm on a big push for World War II Japanese swords. The old samurai swords or any style of Japanese swords, because we're working on another collection and we want to add to this collection. So if you have anything in Japanese swords, you need to call us.
That's right. Call us at 815-923-7000. Don't go anywhere, folks. You're listening to the Donnelly Auctions Hour right here every Saturday on AM 560. The Answer. We're going to keep talking about the guns and military auction and about that fantastic phonograph auction we have coming up in June. Right, guys?
You got it.
I even have a little bit of Thomas Edison fun facts for you, too. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on AM 560, The Answer.
You're listening to the Donnelly Auctions Hour on AM 560, The Answer.
Welcome back to the Donnelly Auctions Hour. I'm Susan, here with Randy and Mike Donnelly today. We are talking about items we're looking for upcoming auctions and to talk about our military and gun auction that's coming up in May.
So, Mike, I wanted to discuss these next couple groupings about our upcoming military auction. Because I keep telling everybody, provenance. It's so important. But here's just a killer example of provenance. Actually, an old high school a friend of mine called up, listening to our show. Thank you. And he said, he said, I've still got a box that my uncle sent home from World War II, sent it home from Germany. And it still was labeled, we have the box, we're going to be selling it. It comes in the original box where he sent home a German helmet and an Italian helmet and insignia and bayonets and everything. And the capture paper is still glued to the top of the box, which was required back in the day to send home war trophies. Now, the whole reason I bring this up is because in World War II collecting, German helmets that are painted tan for the Afrika Korps are almost always faked. Since they're rare and they're hard to find, unfortunately, dealers fake them all the time. Now, here in this box, there's a tan helmet that without question has the provenance. It was sent home. It is a true Afrika Korps German helmet, very rare, very scarce, and it has the provenance. Great.
And that is online also with all those details, Randy, that you had just talked about, what's all included in the Bring Back group. And that's lot number 2035, and it's online now. Go to DonnellyAuctions.com. Click on the red button. It'll take you directly to where you can register to bid.
Now, here's my favorite provenance story. Because,
you have another favorite one. Okay.
Oh, my God. This one is so put together by Mike Donnelly. It's just crazy. You have to be an investigator to have done this. Tell him the whole story, Mike.
Well, actually, the gentleman originally had contacted us to sell us some or to consign some phonographs and such.
Yes.
And then he brings in his uncle's uniform jacket. Guy was in the 1st Cavalry, nothing special.
Right.
Served in World War II, thank him for his service and stuff. But then upon questioning him, I said, well, what about your father? Well, yeah, my father had some stuff. So he brings in his father's uniform. And it turns out his father was a pilot.
A pilot, yeah.
And
nice pilot's uniform.
And he flew missions over the Battle of the Bulge and everything. And well, do you have any photographs of him? No, I don't have any photographs. Any more information about him? No, not really. So we started investigating this guy, and it turns out, he was highly decorated. He had an air medal with 10 oak leaf clusters. And
10 oak leaf clusters. Yeah. I mean, oh, my God. It's just crazy.
Yeah, he was a fighter pilot. And so we just keep pressing him, and the more we press him, then he finds more stuff. And we're putting this group together little by little over a period of a couple months, really.
Yes.
He was contacting him back and forth. And the last thing,
items in the grouping already.
And the last thing, I'm saying, well, what about the medals? Because we were able to find. Actually, he brought in his discharge papers. Then we see all the medals he was awarded. We said, well, what about the medals? And he said, I don't know whatever happened to him.
Yeah, no, we don't have them.
So he showed me a picture. When his father died, they did a little display for him at his funeral, and they had his uniform there and everything. And I zoom up on the phone, and there's the medals laying there. And I said, well, here's the medals in the picture. Oh, yeah. And then that jogged his memory as to where they were, and he went home and found them in his father's dresser drawer. So it was just...
The grouping, ladies and gentlemen, is just incredible. I mean, the man flew Thunderbolts, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, just the whole story of this pilot and all the goodies that go along with this grouping right now. But you see, if you don't put the stuff together, folks, you're losing not only history but money.
Yeah, the story is worth as much as the items.
Absolutely. It all translates into dollars and cents. And this is our job for you, is to try to explain and help you make money with items that you want to sell. Our mantra always is, hey, we make it fit in your wallet. But that's true. But also, we try to get you the most. Always, our job for you is to get you the most money that we can. We've got one shot at doing this, and it's going to be very interesting to see what this group goes for.
That's right, and I want to mention his name. His name is First Lieutenant Robert Kranz from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Thank you for your service.
Absolutely. All veterans out there, thank you so much for everything you've done for us over the years to keep this country what it is today.
One more other thing I want to mention.
Ahead, Mike.
I want to mention about the military auction coming up is the great 8x10 glass slides of the Wright brothers demonstrating their plane for the United States Army that we have. I mean,
you know what, Mike? On the next segment, folks, you've got to listen to this story about the training plane that we have, too, in this auction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, more interesting stories coming from the Donnelly brothers coming up next. Don't go anywhere, folks. You're listening to the Donnelly Auctions Hour right here every Saturday on AM 560. The Answer. We're also going to talk about vintage stereo and audio equipment that's coming up May 11th. And for those of you who grew up with it in the 50s and 60s, you don't want to miss the stories about this one. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
And now, more of the Donnelly Auctions Hour on AM 560. The Answer.
We are back with the Donnelly Auctions Hour. Thank you for sticking with us during that break. I'm Susan, co-owner of Donnelly Auctions, here with Randy Donnelly and Mike Donnelly in the studio today, talking about our upcoming gun and military auction.
Susan, right before the break, you said, we're here every Saturday. And I want to remind you folks, yes, we're back. We're back every Saturday, at least for the next year. We do have a new contract, and this isn't a one-off show. We're back for a year, so please tune in to us every week, Saturday at 1 o'clock, and we'll hopefully give you some good information and a little entertainment at the same time. But we wanted to continue talking about this auction that we have coming up, because Mike is going to be explaining the Wright brothers, but also tell them about the training plane.
Yes, we have some very important glass negatives. These are 8x10 glass negatives that the photographer took, which he'd make prints from. Being an 8x10 format meant it was a professional photographer in there to begin with. 8x10 is a pretty big negative, pretty big camera to shoot. But these are glass negatives of the Wright brothers demonstrating their plane to the United States Army in the early 1900s. Down in, I think it was the field was down in Maryland where they were demonstrating their plane. The United States Army bought a few of their planes, but these are probably never before published glass negatives. So it's going to be interesting to see what they go for. Very historic. And then also from a different consignor, I think this came in from New York or New Jersey. Did it?
Yeah, it was driven in from New York. Yeah,
it is a trainer plane. It looks like actually just a skeleton, the frame of a plane, and it's probably quarter scale.
Well, the wingspan is over 5 foot on this right now.
So that's probably quarter scale of a plane.
And this was used to train pilots before World War I. This training demonstrator plane actually dates to about 1914. Mm-hmm. And we've got, again, provenance with this. This plane is so historic, and it did so much to train the pilots for World War I. It was so historic back in its day that it ended up in a museum in 1919. So 1919, it goes into a museum. It gets deaccessioned. It gets deaccessioned out of the museum in the 1960s. They feel they no longer want it, and they end up selling it off. So, and then it gets sold to a gentleman who now, after all these years, from the 60s to now, has coveted this plane in his collection and everything, and now it's coming on the market probably only for the third time ever. And when it gets sold at our auction, same thing will happen. Probably it'll be off the market again for 20 years. This is such a rare opportunity to buy something so historically significant. So if you collect aviation, or you know pilots or museums of aviation history, boy, this is a one-time rare opportunity.
Yeah, definitely one of a kind. And it was used for training the pilots for the ground school, training them the theory of flight. So, I mean, this is not a model that flies or anything. It's strictly a demonstrator for them to learn the theory of how flight happens.
What's really interesting to me, Mike, is you know, you think of an airplane today and looking at a plane from 1914, I mean, it truly, you said it looks like a skeleton of a plane. Yes, you see the old wooden frame, and it was covered with cloth and everything. Just, it's totally incredible to think that guys actually got in these things and flew through the air in them. I mean, they're just large kites.
Yeah, shooting at each other, too.
Oh, my God, yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, when they used to bomb with aircraft like this, the pilots would literally have bombs in their the floor of their plane, and they would lift them up and drop them over the side of the aircraft to do bombing back in World War I. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, you hear stories. Actually, before there was armaments on planes, first planes were just used for observation of troop movements and stuff. And then really what happened is pilots started bringing up 45s and pistols and shooting at each other, and that's how that all evolved then.
Well, one interesting thing that always amazes me is when they first put machine guns on airplanes, they had to figure out how to coordinate the shot of the gun so that it shot in between the rotation of the propeller so that they didn't shoot off their propellers.
Yeah. Yeah. But the Americans had on their Jennies they had the Lewis gun actually on the top wing, so it shot above the.
Oh, no kidding! Well, yeah, that only makes sense.
But that was tough because every time they had to reload the machine gun, the Lewis gun, they had to stand up in the cockpit with the stick between their knees, taking the magazine off and reloading the gun. So that was a little difficult.
Wow, boy, we've come a long way in warfare.
Well, speaking of guns, too, I want to touch quickly. I know we just have a minute left here on our May 18th guns and ammunition auction. One of our favorite things to consign are firearms, ammunition, reloading gear, accessories. Please email us at consign@donnellyauctions.com. We will definitely put Neil on the phone with you to talk about what you have, give you a quick appraisal. We'll come pick it up for you. Everything is done safely and legally.
Yes, absolutely. And the gun auction, again, May 18th.
Gun auction, May 18th. I think we have 600 firearms. Go to our website at donnellyauctions.com. The catalog is already online. You can look at everything that's up there. We even have a few safes So some great items coming up May 18th. Again, the auction is live in person here in Union, Illinois. You can bid online at DonnellyAuctions.com. I'll even do a phone bid for you. And we'll talk more about that in our next segment. You're listening to the Donnelly Auctions Hour.
The Donnelly Auctions Hour continues now on AM 560. The Answer.
We are back with the Donnelly Auctions Hour talking about items you may have at home that are valuable that you'd like to put up for auction. And some valuable items and highly collectible things right now is vintage stereo and audio equipment. And we have an auction coming up May 11th. That's next weekend, next Saturday.
You know, you mentioned, Susan, that the vintage stereo is, is expensive. Now, they can be, but, very often Mike and I are given our guests the bad news. Everything is not valuable. We ask you all the time, send us photos, so we don't waste your time or ours. If you give us photos, we can give you a pretty good idea of what some of these things are worth. But very often, especially with stereo equipment, it doesn't have a lot of value. It all depends on the quality. And Mike, what would be a few of the better brands? Like
definitely Sansui, McIntosh.
Always Marantz.
Marantz,
yeah.
yes. Fisher.
Yeah.
I mean,
now, see, folks, these items were expensive when they were new, and if people bought, for lack of better words, junk years ago, it still probably has junk prices today. So we're always looking for high quality to get you the best money. The whole thing is very often things get handed down and people aren't aware of the value. And we just consigned a Marantz set that's, probably worth a few $1,000s that a man bought at a garage sale and he was bragging about how he got it for $10. Well, I warn you all the time, know what your items are worth. We don't mind you selling stuff at garage sales and house sales, but if you want to call us or email us, we're happy to give you some prices. But Susan, tell us the date of this auction we've got coming up.
Let me give you some information. The auction is Saturday, May 11th. It starts at 9 a.m., and it has everything from amps, cassette decks, CD players, 8-tracks, laser discs, receivers, speakers, woofers. The list goes on and on. It was a store in Lake Geneva that has closed, so everything must go. So we're going to leave all of the items there in Lake Geneva, but we're going to do the auction here in Union. And again, it starts at 9 a.m. because we have like 870 lots. So a lot of great stuff.
But the viewing, if people want to view it in person, we'll have the viewing in Lake Geneva.
We're going to do the viewing in Lake Geneva on Friday, the night before, from noon to 7 p.m. Again, if you have any questions about this, just give us a call at 815-923-7000. If you want to see what's in the auction, go to DonnellyAuctions.com. It's online, and you can bid there as well.
Now, we're running out of time, folks, for this show, but I'm going to tell you about something we're going to really get into next week, and I want to really discuss heavily a big auction we've got coming up in Lake Forest, and that is the Ferrari advertising auction with all kinds of great advertising items, and we've got about 8 vintage race cars and we've got Richard Petty's number 43 car. We've got Mario Andretti's SGP car. We've got great items from the Ferrari dealership. These items are so rare, you have to go online and see our catalog for this auction. But we'll talk a lot more about that. We've got a little time because it's in July.
That's right. So tune in next week. We will have more information and interesting stories. And tell your friends that we are back. The Donnelly Auction Hour is back every Saturday. For now, I'm Susan.
And I'm Randy Donnelly. And
I'm Mike
Donnelly.
And we'll see you at the auction.
Thanks for listening to the Donnelly Auctions Hour on AM 560, The Answer. Check out all the latest information on upcoming auctions and collectibles at DonnellyAuctions.com. And while you're there, you can contact someone about buying or selling your collectibles or estates. That's DonnellyAuctions.com.